Salvete discipuli. Today we're going to discuss demonstrative adjectives and pronouns. And demonstrative adjectives and pronouns are words that point out someone or something. They give us the specific information. Which one is it? And there are really two main demonstrative adjectives or pronouns, hic, haec, hoc, or illa, illud. First, hic, haec, hoc is a demonstrative meaning this. In the plural, it means these. And this is a word that points out someone that is close to you, either physically or in time. So this video is the one that you're watching right now, and it's very close to us in time. However, illa, illud is a word that means that. In the plural, it means those. And this demonstrative points out something or someone that is further away, either physically with distance or in time. So that video, as opposed to this video, and by that video we mean maybe the one that you are going to watch in about a week. It's not as close to us in terms of time. Now, both of these demonstratives, both hic and ille, can serve as both an adjective and as a pronoun. And just to review, adjectives are words that are going to describe nouns or pronouns, and they're going to agree with that noun in case, gender, and number. Pronouns, on the other hand, replace the noun, and typically it's going to act on its own. And when the demonstrative is used on its own as a pronoun, we'll translate it as this one or that one, or any of the pronoun options, he, she, it, or they. So really the difference between the adjectival use of the demonstrative and the pronomial use of the demonstrative is that with the adjective use, you're going to see a noun with it and you translate each separate word. Hic meaning this, puer meaning boy, and so together they'll mean this boy. And of course, the forms of hic and puer need to agree in case, gender, and number. As a pronoun, however, it's just going to be the demonstrative used by itself, and we translate this either as this one, this masculine one referring to the boy, or he. A few examples with hic, haec, and hoc as adjectives. Est periculosum in vias huius urbis exire. Here huius and urbis are a noun adjective pair, so it is dangerous to go out into the streets. Which street specifically? The streets of this city. And it's this city, the one right here, as opposed to that city 2 towns over. He canes latrant moro, these dogs only bark. Now, because we're specifying the dogs as being these dogs, we can't really say what those dogs over there are going to do. Perhaps those dogs will bite you. However, these dogs right here in front of you, they're only going to bark at you. As a pronoun, we'll just change this and get rid of canes, he latrant moro, these ones, these masculine ones, only bark, and conversely, we could also translate this as they only bark. A few exemplia of illa, illud as an adjective. Ille tabellarius equos vehementer incitavit. That courier fiercely urged on the horses. Now it's that courier over there, as opposed to this courier over here. This courier may or may not be fiercely urging on his horses, but I'm telling you that that specific one far away from us, he does indeed urge on his horses. Conversely, quis in illo edificio habitat, who lives in that building? I'm not talking about this building right in front of me. I'm talking now about that building that I see 2 miles away. And as adjectives, ille tabellarius and illo edificio both have the exact same case number and gender. However, this word can also be used as a pronoun by itself without a noun, quis in illo habitat, who lives in that one, referring to some sort of neuter thing. Just a quick reminder, demonstratives, when they're used as adjectives, will usually go directly in front of the word that they're describing. And this is in opposition to where adjectives are normally placed if it's any other type of adjective. If we were to talk about an annoying boy, that would be a puer molestus, and here the adjective, which agrees with puer in case, gender, and number, is after the noun. However, if we're going to use a demonstrative, either hic or ille, we need to put that demonstrative before the noun in question. And here hic and puer are agreeing in case, gender, and number. Because demonstratives can be used as adjectives, they're going to have all of the case, number, and gender options that all adjectives will have so that they can agree with any noun used in a sentence. Here you'll see all of the forms, and these are already written and typed up for you on your blue pronouns sheet. So follow along and repeat after me as we repeat and say all of the forms. We're going to go through the masculine, feminine, and neuter forms in the singular first, followed by then the masculine, feminine, and neuter forms in the plural. Repetete discipuli. Hic, haec, hoc. Huius, huius, huius. Huic, huic, huic. Hunc, hanc, hoc. Hoc, hac, hoc. And now for the plurals. He, hi, hike. Horum, harum, horum. His, his, his. Hos, has, hike. His, his. Ultimae discipuli. As you will notice, looking especially at the plural forms, most of these forms are similar to first and second declension adjectives. You've got the I nominative plural, the orums, the arums, the as's and os's for the accusative plural. The singulars are sometimes similar to the first and second declension adjectives and sometimes not. A few oddities to keep in mind are the genitive and the dative singulars. All three forms are this very strange huius form that we have never seen before, and the datives huic. Another thing to keep in note is the accusative singular isn't going to end in that traditional M that we see with the vast majority of our nouns, and instead we'll see NCs followed by a fairly typical vowel, the U for the masculine or an A for the feminine. And then finally keep in mind that it's not just the ablative singular feminine that has an essential macron, it really is also the masculine and the neuter to help differentiate, especially the neuter one, from its nominative singular form. Discipuli, let's go ahead and practice. You have all of the forms of hic, this, or these, and I'd like you to fill in the blank with the correct form of hic to match the noun in case, gender, and number. And as an example, clamoribus is a third declension noun ending in ibus, so it's either dative or ablative plural. And the correct form that would match to say to or for these shouts would be his. Go ahead and do the remaining three and pause the video before you can check your work. The answers are up on the board. Discipuli. Strepitu is a fourth declension word, and this one happens to be ablative singular and masculine, giving us the required form of hoc, the one with the macron. Puellarum is a first declension word in the genitive plural, and girls are of course feminine. And then canes has two potential options because in the third declension, this word could either be nominative or accusative. Dogs are typically masculine and the ES tells us it's plural. If this is a nominative use and canes is being used as a subject, we'll talk about he canes. And if this is an accusative use and canes are receiving the action of the verb, we would use hos canes. Discipuli, now let's take a moment to go over the forms of ille, illud, that or those in all of its forms. And once again, repetete will go through the singulars and then the plurals. Ille, illa, illud. Illius, illius, illius. Illi, illi, illi. Illum, illam, illud. Illo, illa, illo. And now for the plurals, repetete, illi, illi, illa. illorum, illarum, illorum, illis, 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 illos, illas, illa, illis, illis, illis. A few things to note for the forms of ille is that very much so in the plural, these forms are identical to your first and second declension adjective endings. So you just need to put them onto the base ill to mean the demonstrative adjective that or those. In the singular, they are also quite a bit more similar to your first and second declension adjective endings, at least compared to the forms of hic. We no longer have to worry about changes in the accusative singular, but just a reminder, we do still have some oddities in the genitive and the dative singular. The forms in the genitive singular illius are reminiscent of the genitive singular forms of hic, which is huius. And then the dative singular doesn't use the first and second declension dative. Instead, it uses that I, which is characteristic from the third declension for the dative. Apart from that, these forms are much more similar than hic and ille to the first and second declension adjective endings that you already know. And let's go ahead and complete the same practice. You're going to be filling in the blank with the correct form of ille that matches the noun in case, gender, and number. And so, for example, we have our word servos, which is second declension, accusative, plural, and masculine. So the correct form of ille that we need is illos, those slaves. Go ahead and complete the remaining 3 with the correct form of ille and pause the video while you complete your practice. And you can see the answers on the key discipuli. Viri as a nominative plural will require the corresponding form illi, those men. Puella, which has a macron over its a, is an indication that it's ablative singular. So our form is illa puella, by that girl. And then urbi, which is a third declension word. This I is an indication that it is dative singular, but with the form of ille, that form happens to be exactly the same. So in the dative singular, illi urbi, to that city. As we've talked about before, hic and ille can both be used as an adjective as well as a pronoun. So let's go through a little bit of practice where we find forms of hic or ille being used as an adjective, and it is your task to try and translate these, focusing especially on translating that demonstrative. If you see a form of hic, you're going to want to translate that as this or these if it's plural. And if you see a form of ille, you want to translate it as that or those if you see it in the plural. So for example, illi legati, since this is a nominative plural form, would be those envoys. Go ahead and try these remaining ones, a total of 6, and pause the video while you complete your practice. And you can see the translations on the board. Illam urbem illa would indicate we need a that translation, and it happens to be accusative. His militibus, since we're using a plural form of hic, we want to translate with these, and this happens to be either dative or ablative, so we can include to these soldiers or by means of these soldiers. Ilius oceani, we're using a genitive form of ille, so we want to use the translation of that and include the genitive of translation. In the plural, horum hominum, because we're working with a form of hic, we'll translate as of these men. In illo horto, ille translates as that in the singular, in that garden. And de hoc domino, now we're using a form of hic, so we'll translate as this, about this master. And finally, as pronouns, when a form of hic or ille replaces the noun, there is no noun to match it in case, gender, and number. Remember that we're going to translate these as this one or these ones, or that one or those ones, or conversely also using the translation options of he, she, it, or they. So for example, ille would translate to either that one, since we're using a form of ille, Or we could also use the translation pronoun he, since we're talking about a masculine singular, that one. Go ahead and try these remaining ones and try to also get the correct case translation in there as well. And you can see the answers up on the board. Ille is a potential nominative plural, so we would translate it as they or those people, those ones. Illa as a feminine can be translated as she or that one, that girl. He as a nominative plural can be translated as they or these people, these humans. Illum is an accusative, so we're going to use the translation option of him, or conversely, that one used as a direct object. Illos, again, accusative plural, so we'll translate as them or those people. And hike, because of the number of forms that this could be, has a number of translation options. If this is feminine, then we could translate it as she or this one, this feminine person. Or if this is a neuter plural, we could translate it as they, these things. Skippily, that's all for our discussion about demonstrative adjectives and pronouns. Walete.